This is the Jackson King V Pro Series 2018 model, or last year's model since it's January 1, 2019 today. But I thought I'd do a little review on this guitar that I just purchased about a week ago. This is my first King V. I previously owned Randy Rhoads Flying V models, but this one I purchased for about $900. It was close to $1,000 after tax. But it's made in Indonesia. It's not the USA model. But in the past, whenever I've purchased Jackson guitars, the build quality has always been top-notch, even on the really low-end, really cheap Jackson guitars. But in this case, it's kind of, overall the build quality is pretty good. The guitar looks great. Play is totally awesome. The fretboard, I love the fretboard with the ebony wood on there, and those shark fin aluminoid, or whatever they are called, aluminoid fret inlays look really cool. Although I'm kind of disappointed on, I guess, some of the blemishes, I guess you could call them, on this guitar. It's almost considered a B stock. I don't know. For example, the first thing that I noticed is this could be a standard thing with these guitars, but if you come in here, this seam here for the glued-on neck is pretty noticeable. Right there. You see that every time you're playing, and it's, the 12th fret's there, and once you start playing up into this area, my eyes are looking in this area quite often, and you can see that noticeable seam there. The other side has kind of a similar thing too. If I could show that, I'm not sure if you can see that very well. You can't really notice it, but you can see that the color changes a little bit. It's almost like there's a white paint back here, and then if you go up to here, it's kind of a different color. See that? So that's all white back into here, and then once you get up here, it's kind of like a different yellow after the glue seam. It's kind of hard to tell on this camera, but boy, you can really notice in person. It's a different shade of white. You might say, this could be a standard feature of how they normally look, or a standard just characteristic, but I don't know, man. If you're paying $1,000 for a guitar, it just seems like that shouldn't be that way. It almost seems like that should be more seamless right here. Also on the underside, let's see if I can get this to focus. Oh, yeah. See that kind of dark line there next to that seam on the left side, that dark line? That goes all the way around on the back. If I flip the guitar over and show you, you can see that little dark, almost like a burn mark or some stain. And you can see the seam there where they've glued it together. If I can show that. Yeah. I think this is something that is just on all the guitars, not just the King V's, but I've seen the Jackson Soloists that also have a similar coloration like that. Actually, let me turn this back over. So that's one issue. Another little minor tweak is up here when you see these tuning locks, you got a little grease stain right there. Now that could probably be cleaned with a Q-tip or something like that, but just something else that none of my Jacksons have ever had anything like this on the back of the headstock. And you can see there it's crafted in Indonesia. There's also a noticeable seam. It's kind of hard to see on this. I don't know if I can handhold this or not. This is going to be a tough one. Let's see here. I'm going to move this guitar over. So right here, there's a noticeable seam between where the two different wood grains meet. It looks like the headstock was glued on right, you can't hardly see it, right there. Two different types of wood or well, just two different grains of wood, or it's like this tip was glued on to the headstock right here. It kind of goes right at that grease stain. There's a straight line, which is the seam right down there, which is glued on. It's hard to see that in the light. Right there. So that's one thing I noticed right away. None of my other Jackson guitars have that at all. I'm just going to flip the guitar. So that's one thing. Another little, well, this is kind of a minor thing, but still, I mean, look down in here. You got a little chip of paint that's missing right below the fretboard where it meets the body. There's a little chip of paint there that's missing, exposing the underside there. You know, a little chip, you know. So I mean, just small little things, but you know, things that I do notice every time I want to play this guitar. Another thing, and I guess the last thing, is there's a blemish on one of the frets right here. Let's see if I can show this. Right here. You can see that little nick there. A little kind of a pit or whatever that is. So that's kind of annoying. I mean, you see that every time you play, and that's down on the, you know, what is that, the 5th fret, 7th fret to the 7th fret. Where is that? Yeah, right here. See if I can get that better angle there. It's kind of tough to see. It's really hard to see that on the camera. Right there on the top part, right by the fret. The other inlays are pretty much perfect. These are all pretty good. But that little thing bugs the hell out of me. It's like I've never had a guitar, even the cheapest guitars I've ever purchased have never had a blemish like that, a little nick or a pit or something. That's kind of annoying. I guess that's pretty much about it. I guess maybe the last little thing is, if you look on the other side, one thing I noticed right away is there's a, let's see if I can see it. Hey, it's gonna be a tough one too. But there's some kind of a rub marks or dirt on the fret on the side of the bindings there, kind of right there. I've tried to scrub that off, and it doesn't want to come off. It's kind of like it's either maybe showing some of the binding finish has been rubbed down, or I think that's a solid piece of binding there. I don't think there should be anything underneath it, but I couldn't get that off very easily, and it's in other places too. I can't really see it up there, but and it's on the underside, so you don't really see it. You don't really see it when you're playing, but probably nobody would ever notice that if you were to sell this guitar. I mean, unless they really looked over it closely, but just something like that. I've never seen anything like that on any guitar that I've purchased for low-end guitars or even high-end guitars. So I mean, most people would probably say, you know, you're being really nitpicky here. You know, those are not big issues, but just the thing that bugs me is that when you're paying, you know, $1,000 for this guitar, and the cheapest guitars that Jackson makes that I've purchased in the past have been just perfect. No blemishes like this whatsoever. Of course, those have been pretty old. I mean, 15 to 20 years old that I purchased those guitars when they were made in India, not Indonesia. Yeah, I mean, the argument I've heard some people say is that, you know, for the money, what you're getting is still pretty darn good. I mean, to buy this in the USA factory, you know, you're looking at, you know, close to $3,000 after tax and whatnot. So yeah, for the money, it's still a great guitar. It plays great. Fretboard is totally awesome. Excellent sustain. I just wish that the build quality would be stepped up just a bit more, considering the price and the quality control. So that's it. Thanks.